Good morning. We'll start the meeting with introductions. I'm Pat Malone, Commissioner.
Annabelle Jaramillo, Commissioner.
Zan Ogerow, Commissioner.
Joe Kirby, County Administrator.
Vance Cronin, County Council.
Alyssa Rash, Public Information Officer.
All right, that's who's in the room. Now we'll see who's go-to meeting. Why don't you start it off, Lilia? We have shy people this morning.
Commissioner, we may be a little delayed for her. She may not be either hearing you or it may be too delayed.
Okay. Well, I can read off who I see. We have Lilia Neville, Danielle Brown, John Sarna, Charlie Fountain, Teresa Farley from our office, Greg Riddler, Sammy from the 509J School Board, and Jesse Sawa. So that's who I see. Sir, did I miss anybody? All right.
Commissioner Brian Lee should be joining us by telephone as well. I don't believe he's on yet, but
Commissioners, I suspect that we have an audio problem. I'm going to hang up and dial back in.
Okay. Yeah, I have not heard a peep,
Yeah.
which is... So we're pausing for a moment because in the meeting room here, we are not hearing anybody who is on the go-to meeting.
And it doesn't appear they're hearing us.
7-2.
Please enter your access code followed by the pound or hash sign. To enable audio controls, please enter your audio PIN. This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry about the audio problems.
Oh, I had mine turned off.
I have my turn. Oh, too.
All right.
The mic's on that laptop, Alyssa.
I can now hear the commissioners if that's helpful.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
We
Yes.
can hear
Yes.
you.
So,
Great, thank you.
till right now, Lilia, you have not heard anything from this end of things? All right.
Maybe it does. Let's try it again.
Lilia?
She's not hearing.
Lilia, can you hear?
Oh, okay.
Yep, I can hear you.
What's that?
Yep, it's fine.
All right. Do I need to start over?
Yes, please.
All right. Well, we thought we got started, but had sound problems. So we will start the meeting with introductions. I'm Pat Malone, Commissioner.
Annabelle Jaramillo, Commissioner.
Zan Ogerow, Commissioner.
Joe Kirby, County Administrator.
Still Vance Cronin, County Council.
Alyssa Rash, Public Information Officer.
Lilia Neville, Board of Commissioners Office.
Danielle Brown, Health Department.
Erica Milo, Board Recorder.
Greg Riddler, Sheriff's Office.
Teresa Farley, Board of
John Simon, member of the public. Aaron Lee, Emergency Manager.
Kate Portia, Corvallis, Benton County Economic Development Office.
All right.
a member of the public and also a school board chair.
Good morning, Sammy.
Jesse Soa from the GT, maybe?
Morning, Pat.
What,
I just wondered if Jesse Soa was on, I think he's with the GT.
okay, and we have Jesse Soa. All right. Are there any announcements? All right. Next item is, are there any comments from the public?
I have a brief comment, if possible.
All right, go ahead.
Well, thanks, Pat. So I want to just acknowledge and appreciate the work of the county staff. I've been seeing phenomenal response from everybody. If I start calling out the departments, I'm afraid I'll miss one. But the coordination, the level of response has been phenomenal and appreciated. Communities are suffering, and we're doing all what we can do as a community to step up and relieve this suffering. So just want to highlight that, acknowledge it. Thank the coordination that the county is doing with the city and also with the district using the liaison, Karen. And I really think this is how it should be, and I really appreciate that response. There are people are really suffering in their houses right now with air quality, access to masks, access to really the resources that they need, and rationing how many times they can step out of their door has been really heartbreaking for me. So I really appreciate the work that you're doing, and thank you to Brian Lee's leadership and everybody working on this. On one note of improvements, I believe we did not need it here in the county, but I believe it was needed in the county, is access to protective action notices or messages in understandable languages. So I've seen the levels, the 3 levels translated to Spanish. I haven't seen it ever in Arabic. And I believe we do have here in, at least in the school district community, we have about 52 languages. I know translation is hard and customized notices are hard, but those are life-saving notices. People need to understand those messages. So I know this might be bigger than the county's scope, and something that could be organized or coordinated with Oregon Emergency Management Office or department. So I really would recommend and appreciate if we could have clarity on where can we access the 3 levels of evacuation notices. What do they mean in different languages? Again, I want to close out by appreciating the leadership and the resources that has been put and deployed in our community very quickly. It's been really appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. A couple more people have joined us, Nick Kurth and Sarah Hartstein. So good morning. Any other comments from the public? Hearing none. Next up, review and approve our agenda. We have one change that I know of, 5.2, the update on epidemic projections. Peter Banworth is not able to be here this morning, so that we will not have a 5.2. Any other additions or corrections? Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next up, chair decisions. There have been no chair decisions since our last board meeting, which brings us to number 5, work session update from the DOC. We have Brian Lee, Danielle Brown, Charlie Fountain, and Lilia Neville. And I'm not sure who wants to go first.
Would you like a COVID update or a fire update first, I guess, is the question.
I would say my update will include both. So
I guess go ahead and start with the fire and then COVID second.
Okay, so I'll do the fire update. So morning, everyone. So here in the EOC, what we're mainly focused on is still supporting the evacuees, specifically out at the fairgrounds, as well as the displaced individuals in our motels and hotels around Benton County. According to Red Cross, we have something close to 600 people utilizing Red Cross services in our hotels specifically in Benton County. And we know there's at least 72 from an assisted living facility in Medford that are here not on Red Cross, so I'm sure there's more. We're doing everything we can to reach out to those hotels and coordinate supplies and resources and services as much as possible, and we're going to be continuing to do that today. Our fairgrounds is still active. We had 53 this morning that are still staying there in RVs and cars. No one has shown any interest in the overnight sheltering options, so we plan to start to demobilize our overnight shelter by the end of the week. We'll still be ready if it's absolutely needed, but otherwise it's not being utilized, so we don't want to overstaff it and have people sitting around waiting. And we'd like to turn that back over to the school district as soon as possible. In other notes, we're moving all of our donations that we received from the community, from the library, over to the Fairgrounds Auditorium for inventory and further distribution. We are allowing evacuees to do basically a sort of a shopping or a supply pickup. We're going to try to allow that from 7 a.m. to, I want to say, like 10 or 11 p.m. We're adjusting the hours to make it work for our volunteers as well. So that will be available. And then all the excess donations will be packaged up and sent to a central warehouse run by OEM, and those will be coordinated throughout the state. But right now, there are no outstanding needs in any county in terms of donations. Everyone is overwhelmed with the generosity and donations pouring in from the community. And on that similar note, the fairgrounds, we are planning on running our operations through the end of next week. We're going to go around and kind of get a check on the current residents that are evacuees and sort of get an idea of if they're willing to share where they're from and what their situation is, so we don't close down services early, and we have some other options for them if they need additional services. But we also don't want to take over all the fairgrounds indefinitely. So we're just sort of sketching that plan out and working with our partners to make sure that is done in a smooth manner. Other than that, we got a lot of medical and behavioral health support from Danielle Brown and our CHC, and that's been amazing. That's actually probably been our #1 utilized service out at the fairgrounds. And that was all I had. Other than that, we have good weather in terms of fire conditions. It's starting to get better and better, and the fire behavior is starting to die down. So a lot of evacuation orders are being lifted throughout the state, but specifically in Lynn County and Lincoln County as well, which is where most of our evacuees are from. End of report.
Thanks, Brian. Any questions?
I do have a question. What's the weather forecast for? I go online and I get different variations of reports. So, what are you getting, Brian?
Yeah, so most of our weather reports are coming directly from the National Weather Service. Today they were expecting some light showers late this afternoon, but that looks like it is sort of subsided as the chance of rain has gone down. They're still expecting thunderstorms and rain on Thursday and Friday. That's been pretty consistent and to be expected, but our temperatures are also dropping as well. So again, in terms of fire behavior, these are all good signs. The amount of rain and thunderstorms coming isn't really enough to put out any fires, but it's enough to help slow things down. And again, the temperature is starting to drop and go back down into the 60s and 70s consistently. So pretty good signs here, and no crazy windstorms that are truly predicted yet. So we're looking forward to fall approaching.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Maybe we'll go to Charlie Fountain next for his update.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. The COVID activity, we remain very busy. In the last couple of weeks, actually our case numbers per day and per week have dropped slightly. but this doesn't account for what may have occurred over Labor Day. But, you know, the converse of that is that the number of contacts per case has actually continued to increase slightly. And so it's a little bit of a worrying trend. People apparently are mixing a little bit more. So we are waiting to see what kind of cases result from kind of the combination of Labor Day, of some schools starting, of a lot of people closing doors and windows, moving inside. We thought we had a few weeks left before that really happened. We know that there are faith communities that have moved inside as a result of the smoke, who were formerly meeting outdoors. We'll just have to wait and see what results of those are. We have we've been very hard at work with OSU, of course. That really has been very intensive work for the last couple of weeks. Doing planning with them on their testing regimens, their isolation and quarantine regimens, planning for residence hall move-in, which begins later this week, starts on Friday. They're doing move-in over the weekend, be doing immediate report rapid testing for everyone who moves into residence halls, antibody testing. They've been asking us to review all their isolation and quarantine plans for all those people. We had a dry run of that about a week ago when the residence advisors, the RAs, moved in, a little over 120 of them, and so OSU was able to do a not a dry run, but sort of a dress rehearsal of their rapid testing, which worked very well, and their quick reporting to us. Early arrivals, student arrivals from OSU are starting this week. They're running those folks through Student Health Services, and then we'll be doing the large group testing for residence hall move-in at Reeser starting on Friday. And people will be moving about 400 or 500 a day. Their latest estimate is around 2,000 to 2,500 students expected in residence halls, although they're still not sure because they waived all of their pre-commitment deadlines, and so that's down a little bit from what they were expecting a couple of weeks ago. We'll have to see what the latest is. I already reported to you by email that the community trace testing that was planned for last weekend in Corvallis, the 5th round of community trace, was canceled because of the smoke. Like everyone else, they did not want their own employees out in the smoke working all day over the weekend, and also didn't want community members having their doors and windows open and needing to come out to do community trace. So they are now looking at that, hopefully for the weekend of the 26th and 27th to do their next round of community trace, since it still looks like smoke predictions are iffy for this weekend. So they're not planning to do that this weekend. And OSU is planning to begin its on-campus trace testing the week of September 28th, and we'll be doing it weekly thereafter. So I think that is that's the major overview from COVID.
Okay, did you have a question, Annabelle?
I didn't catch that estimate when you said 2,000 plus or 200. I didn't get that right.
For the
Arrivals,
dorm?
early
there-
arrivals.
Well, it's not early arrivals. They're looking at 2,000 to 2,500 residence hall.
Okay,
But again, that's down a little bit from their earlier estimate of 3,000, but they'll just have to see how many folks actually show up and move in.
thank you, Charlie. I didn't catch that number exactly, so I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, what I remember from talking with Steve Clark a week ago was they were anticipating something around 2,300, and sounds like it may be in the dorms, and it sounds like that number may get slightly smaller. Okay. Is that it, Charlie?
Yes, unless there are any more questions, I think that's it for COVID.
Okay. We can move on to Danielle Brown.
Hi, good morning, Commissioners. So the only thing I will add to Charlie's update is we are continuing to work with Oregon Health Authority in contracting for the community-based organizations that have been approved for contracts with OHA for assistance with contact tracing and wraparound support. So we do have a meeting this afternoon with the community-based organizations and Oregon Health Authority to start having some of those conversations and developing those processes. I have a draft MOU that I've ran through contracts and legal, that once we develop those processes, we are ready to implement that MOU and can move that process forward. So we're really excited about that. I think, initially that's going to be a little bit of work on the front end, but I think that's going to take quite a bit of pressure off of the communicable disease team in terms of the wraparound support needs and the follow-up for the COVID positive patients. So really excited about that and looking forward to getting that up and going.
Which community-based organizations here in the county are participating?
There are 10, Commissioner Ojero, and I can send you that list. I don't have that open right off the top of my head. I know there are Family Tree Relief Nursery, CSC, Mid-Willamette YMCA, Casa, I'm going to say that wrong.
Casa Latinos Unidos.
Casa Latinos. Thank you. And there's a total of 10. I don't remember the others right off of the top of my head, but I'm happy to send you that list.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Okay, Annabelle?
I don't know which one of you will answer this, but are regular flu shots still on schedule? I've seen advertisements from Safeway, and I know that we have county locations set up, but that's still pretty much on schedule?
Yes, Commissioner, there's been no disruption in flu shot availability. So virtually all pharmacies and all medical clinics have flu vaccine in stock. They're actively dispensing.
I have another question for Danielle.
Okay.
Danielle, I'm not sure whether you're done or not, but one of the other things I wanted to ask about was the status of collaboration with the community-based organizations working to shelter the unhoused for the winter. And is there any ongoing planning with those organizations about how to bring people indoors or not in the unhoused community?
Yeah, good question, Commissioner. We had started that conversation specifically around the micro shelters and the implementation of those, but further how we're going to support the larger unhoused population, knowing that those 15 micro shelters are really a drop in the bucket. So we are setting up some meetings with our public health folks and city Palbalata folks from the city to start developing some of those planning. To be really honest, we haven't gotten that far, but the conversations are happening and are out there.
Thank you. I may follow up offline.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Anything else for us, Danielle?
I have nothing else. Thank you this morning.
Great. Appreciate the report and your efforts. Next up, Lilia Neville.
Good morning, Commissioners. So my update spans, we started last week really focusing, of course, on our support of the DOC for the COVID response. So primarily for our COVID response, some highlights that I would say are that we continue to publish our dashboards. Actually, I'll show my screen really quickly for this update. Great.
The dashboard looks great. Thank you.
So, let's see, it's almost there, I think. Can you all see my screen at this point or no?
No.
No?
No. Another window is on top of, okay, let me try this over again. Sorry, folks. There we go. Okay.
There it is.
So I believe the last time that I shared this dashboard with you, I focused primarily on our testing numbers. As I mentioned, we continue to roll out our dashboard. So this particular one that I wanted to share with you today displays our demographic data. Several folks were wanting to see our information over time by age range, as well as by whether or not the individual was identified as a female or male. So that's what this dashboard does, and I thought I'd share this one in particular because it is so visually appealing. And again, I want to give a shout out to Peter Bjornworth and his collaboration with the Joint Information Center to put together these visuals. So, like I said, we started the beginning of the week last week really focusing on COVID, and then by midweek we had transitioned to supporting the Emergency Operations Center with the Wildfire Response. So I want to mention that also at the beginning of last week we activated our Team B for the very first time, and the folks on Team B have just absolutely pulled a ton of weight and carried a lot of water, and having the transition from DOC and COVID to then be responding to the wildfire on top of that was a big lift last week. And I was just incredibly impressed by everyone's teamwork, collaboration, and support of one another. So some highlights from our wildfire response that I think is pretty incredible that the Joint Information Center did is, one, they built out an entire website in a day. We continued to add to this over the course of the week. Of course, we pushed out messaging on our other digital platforms. We developed, because in this case the emergency was moving so quickly, our hotline for COVID-19 primarily relies upon talking points from the Oregon Health Authority. The Joint Information Center also gives them localized information to use, but there's a large body of information for our local hotline to draw upon. Well, I'm just really, really proud of the members of the Joint Information Center because they pulled together a huge amount of information in order to be able to stand up a hotline phone number in both English and Spanish for our local communities. I think that we had that up within 24 hours, so that was a really, really amazing effort. In addition to that, we staffed the Joint Information Center over the weekend in order to be able to be responsive to our community. We engaged with our community substantially since, I would say, last Tuesday or Wednesday on the wildfire topic, and I just couldn't be more impressed with the way that the community has stepped up with donations, volunteerism, connecting information, pointing people to the right resources. Things are moving so quickly, and so to be able to have folks utilize our Benton Recovers website to manage some of that inflow of assistance was wonderful. So At this point, we are within the Joint Information Center looking towards the end of this week. We're looking at some of that weather information and seeing what we might need to do with regard to that for safety messaging, of course. We'll be looking at pushing out demobilization information towards the end of the week. But we're also, I'm sorry, that was wildfire related, but we're also going to be really looking from a COVID lens towards the end of the week because, as Charlie mentioned, that's when move-in begins. With move-in, I think that we're anticipating about 500 people a day. And so we just want to be proactive and kick up some of our COVID messaging by the end of the week. Certainly we have our public health education campaign with OSU and Sevilla Corvallis that you all saw, I think, a week ago. So that's going to guide our tactics and our strategies. But in addition to that, we also have some collaboration internally within the health department to get out standard flu shot messaging and immunization messaging. We also are rapidly approaching time when voter pamphlets are going to be distributed. So we have a little bit of ranked choice voting information that we're going to start likely next week to get out. We need to be very sensitive and balance the need for information for events that are forthcoming and just the insensitivity of understanding that some people have lost everything in the last 5 days. And, talking about ranked choice voting might not be the top of the priority for everyone in our community. So we're balancing a lot of messages this week, but again, if I could just give one more shout out to the folks on Team B and the Joint Information Center, they've been amazing. Any questions?
Thank you. I agree. Team's been fantastic.
Thank you.
Especially last week, accurate information is golden, and your efforts and state efforts to lots of rumors floating around, and I think we can be proud that our website can be seen as a place to go for real information, and it may take you a little longer than the rumors that are flying around because you can make stuff up in an instant, but and getting accurate information takes longer, but it is critical. So
thank you, Commissioner.
Appreciate all the hard work and I think was successful getting the information out. Annabelle?
Thank you.
Yeah, and this is going towards the elections process. Are you prepared for bad information coming out, or making sure that we're putting out the correct information? I know there's a lot of concerns across the country about whether or not elections are going to really happen, and holding back on ballot deliveries and all that. I think we have a stellar group in the elections office, but it would be helpful to have some reassurance to voters that things are moving along smoothly as they can in this environment.
Absolutely, that's a great point, and I'll certainly be sure that that's in our messaging moving forward.
It could be on the elections website for what we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to mention, I know that there has been some messaging around that, but certainly we can amplify that.
Good, thank you.
Well, and Lilia, to balance out your concerns about talking about voting in kind of turbulent times, the phrase walk and chew gum at the same time. Yes, we have big issues swirling around, but we also need to be able to take care of regular business, and we are doing that. So I think the effort on voter information is important, and you know, we've got to be able to do more than one thing at a time. And it looks like we're capable, of that, so.
We certainly are.
Commissioner Malone, I would suggest that we go to Kate Porsche before you end this particular agenda item, since she is on the line, or she was earlier.
Okay. Kate Porsche, would you like to weigh in how things look from your point of view?
Hey, yeah, good morning, Commissioners. So nice to talk with you. I mostly called in just to listen to the update, but I'm happy to report that we are continuing our work on distributing the KN95 masks out to businesses. We had 11,000 of those, and we've distributed about 5,500 so far. And I keep a props to our friends in public health. Catherine Duvall on our team continues to pair up with Rocio. They're going out and hitting a number of minority businesses in Benton County. And we're still continuing to spread the word on the grant program that we have available, which is still the Phase 2 Business Oregon grants. And again, if you know of anybody that can utilize these, of course, the caveat with these is they cannot have received PPP or EIDL. We're still having conversations at the state level on easing those restrictions for the Round 3 funds, and I will keep you apprised as we move forward with those. But that's just a brief update from the EDO this morning.
So, Kate, if I'm understanding you correctly, that means that we have money still in Phase 2 and it's being underutilized because of that limitation?
Yep. That's exactly right. Yeah, we've only had committed, so we had 75,000 in Phase 2, and I believe we've only committed so far either $35,000 or $40,000 of that money. And I think you guys know we have been pushing this out through all of our channels. Our partners have, and it's just tough because we're finding that about 75 to 80% of our businesses have received some sort of PPP or EIDL. And I would tell you, this challenge that we're having, this is not unique to Benton County. The consortium that's working on this at the state level is comprised of the League of Oregon Cities, the Association of Oregon Counties, Lane County, City of Beaverton, some big heavy hitters throughout the state, all of whom are having the same trouble. And we're again, I think the folks were well-intentioned at the beginning. This program was conceived of, if we can recall, way back in May, which seems like forever ago. And the notion was to cast the net and capture those who had been missed by PPP or EIDL. But as we moved through the months of June and July, many folks were able to take advantage then of PPP or EIDL, which is now disqualifying them from this program. So, yes, still money available, still working to find folks that we can match, and still lobbying at the state level to shift those restrictions for the Round 3 funds.
Excellent. Let us know if you need help.
Definitely will do. Thank you.
That's what I was going to ask, Kate. What would it? Who would be responsible for changing the formula for distributing these funds?
Yeah, so the decision on this originally was made by the governor's executive committee. So folks from our consortium have had some conversations with the executive committee, but it's seeming like the easiest path forward on creating a change here is just through the legislature. And so, again, everybody's, we've kind of put together these letters through the League of Oregon Cities, Association of Oregon Counties. Everybody's got their lobbyists involved, including OEDA, and we are really trying to work this through the legislative channel. So right now we believe it's going to be a legislative process, though it is possible, but we're just not sure they're meeting on this type of item, that it could be the governor's executive committee, but it really feels like it'll be through the legislature.
Well, what we heard yesterday is the rumored special session is not going to take place before the November 3rd election. So
Right.
If-
Exactly. And so now, yes, it's true. And I've not talked with our consortium group since then, so we just don't know. And I will tell you, Joe and I chatted about this briefly. In Benton County and other counties, we're in a bit of a conundrum, and I guess maybe I do appreciate the opportunity to talk because I could run this up the flagpole with you guys. We have our commitment for our round 3 funding, which we received. At this point in time, the round 3 funding quote unquote allows for people to have received PPP or EIDL, but it basically uses a subtraction formula. So yes, they can qualify, but anything they receive through PPP or EIDL is then subtracted from this money, which continues to still eliminate 95% of folks from receiving any money. We have received the contracts from Business Oregon for the round 3 funds. Vance reviewed those. Mary Otley has looked at them and approved them. I had been holding them, hoping that we were going to find a solution and see the round 3, restrictions be shifted. But now I'm worried about the timing of that. So I guess, we have some choices here. Business Oregon would like us to go ahead, send through the executed contracts, and begin to roll out round 3. Which our office can certainly do, but we have hesitation that we're just not going to find a whole bunch of people. In which case, the big question mark is what happens to the unexpended funds? Will those roll back to Business Oregon, or will that be a time frame by which restrictions have been eased and communities will be allowed to use them? So I guess the question that we have is, would you like us to go ahead and submit that contract? We can get the round 3 going as is, and then just kind of see where the chips fall after the election with the legislative session, see if they ease it, or I can respond back to Business Oregon, and I think the message would be like, thanks but no thanks, but we really would like to hold off until we better understand if the restrictions are going to change. I'm not sure that's the best course, but yeah.
What are other jurisdictions doing? Was this a topic of conversation with your meetings with others through OEDA?
It has been. So Albany, I've talked really closely. Seth Sherry over in Albany, he and I talked. They went ahead and rolled it out, but they were about 3 or 4 weeks ahead of us. So they had just gone ahead and done it. There was some talk down in Lane County that some folks were going to hold off, and I have not talked to them in the last week with the change in the legislative session. So that's certainly something I could find out and get back with you guys with, so that you could make a solid decision.
I'm just
perhaps next week. I don't know.
Just thinking that if several counties hold off, or applicants for these funds, it will put pressure on Business Oregon because they also have to have the funds expended by December 30th, and so it might help inform our action.
Yeah. So why don't I do this? Because the playing field has shifted slightly with the timing of the legislative session. Let me reach out to Community Lending Works and our partners that are part of this consortium and see what other folks are doing, and then I can circle back with Joe and Mary and basically get some feedback from them as to whether we want to go or not go. And of course, the question is, what harm is there in going with the round 3 money? And I think generally there's not a lot of harm, except I do think it's creating a little bit of confusion because we have round 2 money that had, okay, you can't have received PPP or EIDL. Now we're going to advertise and push out round 3, which, okay, you can have received, but we're going to have to subtract out anything you did receive. Then if they change it in the future, let's say November, December, we will have yet another version of the funds. And I don't know. I'm trying to balance the need versus the kind of creating market confusion for these businesses. And based on the fact that we've only been able to get out 40,000 of of that round 2 funds, makes me think there isn't as much of a need for folks that that haven't received PPP and EIDL. Like, there isn't that much of a market there. There is a need, but the need is with folks that have received PPP or EIDL. There's a great need.
Yeah, thank you. That sounds like a frustrating situation.
Kate?
Indeed. Well, I'll work with, oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Pardon me.
Just going to check in on the timetable. Our next board meeting is a week from today. Is that too long to wait?
I don't know, and I could certainly loop back with Business Oregon. How about this? I will ask Business Oregon permission to see if we could wait until next week. If they are not okay with that, I will work directly with Joe and Mary on this. Does that sound like a good course of action?
Yes, I see heads nodding, so
great.
I think that is the best way to proceed, and it's too bad well-intentioned restrictions are still in place and gumming up the works here, but I appreciate your efforts in trying to clarify a pretty confusing situation.
I have one last question.
Yeah, no, you bet. We're happy to help.
Zan?
Kate, I know just from moving through town that there are clearly businesses that have closed, but I also know that there are others that are opening. Do you have any sort of quantitative sense for trends in terms of how our businesses are faring?
It's funny. Councilor Napak just asked that last Monday when I presented our annual report to the City Council, and I have a call out to Patrick O'Connor, our economist. And I believe there is a way that we can track total number of firms in Benton County and whether that net number has gone up or down. And so I'm actually working on gathering that data now. Of course, we're watching really closely the unemployment rate, but that doesn't necessarily relate to business closures. So I am working on that, Commissioner Ojo, and I'll make a note to see if I can't bring that back for you next week as well.
Thank you.
All right, anything else?
No, just to say, I know you guys are excited about the electrical bicycle grant. We put that in with Pacific Power, and we're just waiting to find out. But a lot of enthusiasm. We've got our fingers crossed, and Pacific Power has let us know that we should find out by October. I was on with Chris Workman, City Council in Philomath last night, and shared all these updates with them as well. So we've got our fingers crossed, because it'd be nice to just get some happy news and get some electric bicycles out to some low-income members and create new awesome transportation options. So we'll keep you apprised with that one for sure.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, Kate. This isn't just local information, but there seems to be a pretty good movement to greatly increase the number of charging stations for electric vehicles, especially on the West Coast, but that the traditional utilities are seeing this as an opportunity and a need, and so the electric bike program fits right in. But I think there is, in spite of all the things that are going on, that we may be making some progress in making electric vehicles more attractive and more practical.
Indeed.
All right. Well, thank you for the update. If there's
you bet. Thanks for giving me some time. I appreciate it.
Okay. I think that takes care of 5.1. 5.2 has been canceled, so we're on to number 6, the consent calendar.
I would move the consent calendar.
I believe that there is a change in item 6.1 and making sure that for the City of Corvallis, we're appointing Tim Bates rather than Greg Gescher for the State Transportation Improvement Fund Advisory Committee. So with that modification, I would second the consent calendar.
And that was Tim Bates. Okay. All right. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor of the consent calendar as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Number 7, proclamations. In the matter of proclaiming September 2020 as National Preparedness Month in Benton County. Kind of ironic, I guess, but Brian Lee, would you take care of that?
Yes, absolutely. So obviously, September, traditionally since 9/11, has been considered National Preparedness Month. Of course, I hate to say it, it's very fitting given all the disasters, obviously with COVID and the wildfires here on the West Coast. Would you like me to read this?
Please.
I made a mistake.
Okay. Okay, so before the Board of Commissioners for the State of Oregon for the County of Benton in the matter of proclaiming September National Preparedness Month in Benton County. National Preparedness Month, occurring annually in September since 9/11, creates an ideal opportunity for community members, businesses, and visitors of Benton County to join other community members across the United States in preparing their homes, businesses, and communities for any type of emergency, including natural disasters, and the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and other federal, state, and local officials and the private sector are working to prevent and respond to all types of emergencies. And when individuals take responsibility for preparing their families and their communities, the chance of survival and return to normalcy following a disaster is greatly increased. And the Benton County Sheriff's Office Emergency Management Division partners with federal, state, local, tribal, territorial, private, and volunteer agencies to inform individuals on how to take action through our public education campaigns and our local volunteer programs such as Community Emergency Response Team, American Red Cross, law enforcement volunteers, and amateur radio services. And residents, businesses, and visitors of Benton County, Oregon are urged to plan ahead for disasters and encourage their family and their friends to also do so by participating in neighborhood preparedness activities, registering their contact information in the local emergency notification system, Lynn Benton Alert, and preparing in annual readiness events. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Benton County Board of Commissioners, hereby proclaims September 2020 as National Preparedness Month and encourages all community members, businesses, and visitors to develop their own emergency preparedness plan, adopted this 15th day of September 2020.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Any questions or comments on that?
I think we should have a motion to adopt it.
We do.
You do?
Page 44.
Okay.
I
I didn't see it on the agenda, that's why I asked.
I would move to proclaim that the month of September is September National, sorry, that the month of September is National Preparedness Month in Benton County.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Well, I'm not sure if ironic is quite the right word, Brian, but I wish we would have had a little more time before our emergencies hit to get prepared, but I think under the circumstances, we're doing a great job and really appreciate all your efforts and I guess keep it up.
All right, will do.
Commissioner Malone, before we move on, we would like to go back and address item 6.1 on the consent calendar.
Okay.
There was some confusion regarding the agenda item in the packet and the recommendations for appointment. So the appointment of Tim Bates is actually incorrect and
Yes.
should be Greg as Gesher as it's indicated on the actual agenda itself.
Okay.
So we do need to go back and correct that, Vance.
Yep, we need a new motion rescinding your original approval and acting on the agenda or the order that's in
Yes.
the packet.
I would move that we rescind our approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
And now I move that we approve the consent calendar as prepared.
Second.
All in favor of approving the original consent calendar, say aye.
Aye. And I apologize for the error.
All
It's going to
right.
be amusing to somebody in 10 years who looks at these minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right. Item number 8.1, discussion and decision to adopt the emergency operation plan. You're up again, Brian.
Yes, so I believe I sort of reviewed our emergency operations plan with the various commissioners as well as Joe Kirby and the sheriff as well. Basically, this emergency operations plan is required for FEMA grant funding and other requirements to be updated at minimum every 5 years, so we are due this month. We generally update it twice a year, but it's more of a maintenance check. This was a full overhaul, and this is our joint plan with the city of Corvallis. It does obviously include other jurisdictions, including the unincorporated areas. And what we did this time is we created our basic plan, and then we are going to develop further plans, our annexes, basically our operational or support annexes that will outline mass care, evacuation, all the emergency support functions, and EOC sort of protocols and procedures. So those will all be addendums that we're going to start adding in. But this EOP is just the base plan, and it's kind of a general outline of how things work, general authorities in Benton County and the city of Corvallis in our outlying jurisdictions. There was one small edit that was related to, that could have put us into some other policies that might influence county operations, so I nixed that paragraph, and that was really the only change apart from adjusting tables and page numbers from what I presented to both the county administrator and the various commissioners.
Okay.
And Commissioners, just to elaborate a little bit, the paragraph that Brian is referring to that we removed versus the original proposed version was under section 3.2.3.3, and it was the second to last paragraph in that section. The reason I asked Brian to remove it is there are some significant policy discussions involved in that particular paragraph as it relates to employee pay relative to EOC operations, and in particular folks that are exempt. So that is a policy discussion that we need to have in more detail with the board over the next couple of months, and I didn't think it was appropriate to include at this point since we did not have that policy conversation yet. So we will be coming back to you with additional information over the course of the next 30 to 60 days to engage in that policy discussion.
Okay. And the idea is this plan needs to be in place by the end of the month, so we don't have the luxury of time.
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
And one more thing on that note, commissioners, it does need to be at least formally adopted by you guys by the end of the month at the latest, but also immediately after, as Joe mentioned, if we have to do edits or changes, we can fold right into that and start editing and changing it. We just need to have at least one formal adopted version available basically to the state and to the public, and then we will start editing and making changes as needed moving forward.
Okay. Any other questions? I notice Mary Otley is with us. Did you have any comments, Mary?
No, not at this time, thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions on the EOP?
And, I feel like I have had ample opportunity to review it and to ask questions, so I am fine with this document at this time, and I'm happy that it's moving forward.
Okay, Annabelle?
I'm fine.
Well, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion to adopt the emergency operation plans.
All right.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Once again, appreciate the efforts, Brian, and clarification that this is a a work in progress, and we need to get the update done, and then can continue to work on it. So thank you. All right. We are to number 9, other. Have any comments?
I just wanted to highlight, as have several of our speakers, how grateful I am for the level of enthusiasm and professionalism that our staff have put towards this twin set of crises that we've been facing, and for all of the outpouring of support from the community. I had the opportunity to help out with moving some of those donated supplies from the library to the fairgrounds on Saturday, and it was truly amazing to see the generosity of the community.
Mm-hmm. I also want to thank all the people that are working in the Emergency Operations Center. It's amazing how quick they respond to questions, and we had an opportunity to call them a couple of times asking for some clarification on stuff, right on it, and they're right on, so it's really marvelous. I'm assuming all departments are really participating as well as they can. So
That is correct, Commissioners. As you know, we have 3 EOC teams now,
yeah,
in addition to our Department Operations Center within the Health Department. So we have many staff currently dedicated to both the COVID response and the wildfire response.
yeah.
Well, I think the only thing I have is, as of yesterday, the state legislature pending special session that could happen at any time has apparently been postponed till after November 3rd. Part of the reason for keeping in close contact with our legislators is just to continue to get an idea of what kind of shape the state budget is in, and the earlier we can get that kind of information, the earlier we can make adjustments to our budgets. But it sounds like there won't be any legislation, any adjustments to the current budget till after November 3rd. So stay tuned on that. I guess anything else for the good of the order?
No.
The world's shortest board meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Well, maybe not.